views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Good evening and welcome to Bronx Talk. Many factors make Bronx people incredibly creative, outspoken, independent, and unique. And it comes out in a variety of ways, especially in our engagement with numerous art forms where people have been particularly distinctive. In fact, some social scientists believe that by emphasizing our creativity and culture, we can affect other more important and traditional issues like poverty and health. For the last 7 years, the Bronx Filmmakers Collective has been stoking the flames of filmmaking in our borough by supporting and promoting some of the most outstanding creativity and talent that the Bronx has to offer. They'll be celebrating their 7th anniversary on Tuesday, September 3rd, with what they're calling the Magnificent Seven. I wonder where they got that from. An anniversary networking event at the Bronx Documentary Center. Tonight, we help them celebrate that anniversary, but more importantly, show off some of the creativity that makes the Bronx and Bronx filmmakers truly something special. Please join me in welcoming back to Bronx Talk a writer, director, and co-founder of the Bronx Filmmakers Collective. It is Hannah Leshaw. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you.
And also a Bronx filmmaker and board member of the Bronx Filmmakers Collective. It is Shayok Mukhopadhyay. Nice to have you with us, sir.
Thank you.
And don't forget, we're going to be showing some trailers. We're going to be showing some films, so we're going to get to see what everybody's able to do. So, Hannah, let's just start. Where have you been? How was the Bronx Filmmakers Collective created? And where are we at now?
We started 7 years ago. There were a couple filmmakers in the audience at the Bronx Documentary Center screening some independent short films from Brooklyn. And the filmmakers started talking and chatted with Mike Camber, who runs the Bronx Documentary Center. He said, why don't you use our space to have a meeting? And the rest is history. We started meeting regularly there. And it's been 7 years of networking and connecting with other filmmakers in the borough, as well as other artists, different kinds of creativity.
How many people? Is it hard to recruit people? Do they come out of the woodwork? I mean, give me some sense of what the community is like.
Yeah, we are a smallish group. We're currently about 23 people, and
I tell you, that's not that small, but that's okay.
Well,
She's
I guess,
being humble.
Well, when we compare it to other collectives, like the
I
Brooklyn
see.
Filmmakers Collective, which has hundreds of people and has to reject applications, we are not, at that sort of level.
Come on.
But we
Not really. I wouldn't say that. Like we definitely have certain criteria on the basis of which.
I meant anybody interested, certainly.
They do have to show certain that they have creative control. They have finished films on which they have creative control. Right. So you have to be an active working filmmaker.
So it's not come all, but it's certainly if you have interest and you may have some of the credential, then you should participate. Okay.
Right.
And when brand new people that are just interested in film but have not yet done anything, what we generally do is actually refer them to BronxNet to take the field production and the studio production classes so that they can do a project on their own and ask them to come back to us later. And we do that just because it's a different dynamic when you have people that are interested in film versus actively working in film.
Every single person, I don't have my cell phone in my pocket here, has a cell phone. And nowadays you can make a little film, you probably can edit it on your own.
That's true.
You can then take it, you can upload it to YouTube.
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden you say, hey, look at the little video or film that I've made. Talk to me about filmmaking and the technology of filmmaking, even in the 7 years. Has it changed much, or are we really still doing what we always did, and that's what makes it distinctive from everybody who does one of these?
No, I think there's definitely been some technological changes in terms of being accessible as an art form. I will say filmmakers have different sort of things they gravitate towards. There are some filmmakers who get really excited talking about the latest camera and the latest lens. I'm much more interested in the script and the casting because I think that's where the strength comes from. So I am not obsessed with what newest camera is out. But there certainly are ways that it's become an easier art form to compete in.
I'm going to nudge the guy to your left and ask, do you have a sense of a changing nature of film, or is what was good in the past is still good if you can make films, or you could have done it 7 years ago or 10 years ago, you can do it today?
I think the big difference that has been, especially in the documentary space and probably also in the fiction space, is that the number of films. The number of films that's being made. The number of films that being made, it's so large now.
There are many more than used to be.
Many, many more than there used to be.
So it may not be the nature of the technology, but the access to technology, that more people have access to it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it has changed in 7 years, but let's say it's changed in like last 15 years or so, that the number of films being made because the access to technology is easier is very large. And that actually creates some challenges because it's just more difficult to get your film out there, to get attention for your film.
Well, you broke in and talked about wanting to have people with experience, want to have people who really know how to do stuff.
Right.
And that's another aspect of it, that if you have a really good piece of work, it's like, and you put it out there, people are like, well, I got 80 films or even more that I have to go through, and I'm not going to be able to get to yours.
Right.
Talk to me about the training of people. Now, Hannah mentioned a little bit, certainly BronxNet Television does a wonderful job training people and all that kind of thing, in traditional TV and just getting the idea of how to put it together. But even talk about yourself as a filmmaker and tell me a little bit about your own training and how you got to the point, because you have a trailer that we're going to show. Maybe we'll show that first. You have a trailer that we're going to show, and it's wonderful. It's not the kind of thing you can use your little cell phone and say, hey, let's make a film.
Yeah, I mean, just to, it isn't shot on a little cell phone, but actually, if people are interested in the technical aspect, what remains equally challenging in the technical aspect from a documentary perspective is actually audio. To collect good sound remains as challenging as ever. And in a very interesting way, audiences are more disturbed by bad sound than by bad picture. That challenge hasn't really gone away.
I have to tell you, having been in television for a very long time, I think that is probably true. And very often, if we go out and shoot a news story or we, do something like that, you say, are you getting good audio? Are you getting good audio? And so you think that's something that young filmmakers don't quite realize yet?
Yeah,
Yes,
they
I
do
think that's
not
true.
realize. And we have seen it within our group, like when we do critiques of people like showing their rough cuts or whatever, like they often, like the audio is lacking. And the audio, what you need to get good audio hasn't probably changed ever. What you need is to be proximity. Right, the mic has to be close enough, and I have a very particular experience with that. It's like from shooting in India. India is a very, very noisy country.
Really?
It's an extremely noisy.
I've heard a lot of things about India. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, it's a noisy country and it's a hot country, so there are fans. It's an audio nightmare.
Wow.
Right. So I have a very particular angle on this question. So yeah, that's
wow.
Yeah.
So, but again, for your own training, talk to me about how you.
Yeah. So my formal training is actually, I come from a still photography background, and I went to ICP, International Center of Photography, which used to be uptown. Now then it moved to Midtown, and now they're moving to the Lower East Side. So their basic background, the thing that they kind of based on, was documentary photography. It was an institution founded by Cornell Kappa, Robert Kappa's brother. So that's where I went to study documentary photography and photojournalism.
Had you done that sort of thing with the goal of saying, I'm going to be a filmmaker, like this is what I want to do? Or was it kind of a, well, let's try it out, I have this idea maybe? Or did you say, I'm going to do this?
Actually, I've when I was a kid, I wanted to make films. But when I was in high school, I kind of pressurized or whatever, corralled my family into acting in a film directed by me. But I kind of gave that up. I thought like the film was just too complicated and required too much equipment and money or whatever. But the time when I went to ICP is when this very critical camera in documentary filmmaking and other filmmakings had just been 1 or 2 years. It's the Canon 5D Mark II, which really opened up filmmaking to a bigger group of people, because it was one like a DSLR that could shoot HD video. And that's when I found out, wow, okay, so maybe I can make films.
Well, this is actually, in a way, it's funny how the conversation came around, because the technology became accessible.
Exactly.
So you were one of those people who was saying, aha, now I can do it.
Exactly.
Hannah, let's just talk about, people who do come to you. I'm always interested in, we want to always inspire people in the Bronx. So if somebody says, I'm just like Shayok and I really want to investigate it, what do you recommend they do? So they start here, or from a kind of intellectual point of view, what should they be thinking about? Should they be thinking story? Should they be, talk to me about what it takes to develop a filmmaker to get to a point where they can be part of this and do better?
Yes, well, certainly story, for a narrative, story is key. Story is everything. So it doesn't matter what equipment you have. If you have no story, you have no film. So absolutely. But I find most people have stories floating around in their heads for years before they get to the point where they're
walk
picking up
down
a
the
camera.
block in the Bronx and there's a story in every
Right.
pharmacy.
Yes. So really, I think just being serious about it and committing to it. I, like Shayok, used to, when I was a child, want to be a writer, and abandoned it for other things. And in my late 30s, I was like, what am I doing with my life? And moved back into writing and filmmaking. So I do think that, and then I just committed to it, and I didn't go back to film school. So I only took the BronxNet film classes here.
Wow.
And then I just
so
went
you're
on the street.
a perfect example.
So
yeah.
I really just think it's about personal commitment. If you're interested in doing it, these BronxNet classes will give you the push you need. And then once you're sort of got your first feet, then our group does provide other kinds of help and assistance. We do have speakers who come in and talk about a variety of specialized topics. Our members have specialized skill, and so they will present on those topics. For instance, we had an editor who his day job was as an editor, so he gave a presentation on editing for our members. So there'll be additional support later.
This, and we're going to get to showing some of these trailers in just a moment. This brings up another whole aspect of filmmaking, which is unlike even those of us who've been doing video or news or those kinds of things. And that is, you talked about the commitment, getting that equipment. I didn't ask you about the cost of the camera that you suggested. You can't just have anybody act and make a film. They have to really, say
Right.
walk down the street, and they walk down the street and it doesn't look right. To do that, you have to work at a high level, requires resources. How do people deal with that? Or there's no real answer to that, they figure it out?
I think initially what a lot of people do is borrow and trade things. So you own a camera, so I'll walk your dog for 2 weeks if you let me use it. Or sometimes people want experience shooting on a particular camera, so you work out, you'll be the camera operator, and then you'll get to put that on your resume. So there's some of that kind of finagling that goes on.
And let me just interject, then that's partially the value of the collective, because there's other people in the same situation.
Right.
You have better audio equipment, I have better film equipment, or even just getting advice on how to
Absolutely.
go past.
And certainly we do lend each other equipment all the time. The other piece, though, the acting piece, that's where I don't think you should skimp. And the thing is, we're in
Really?
New York City, where there are a lot of actors who want footage for their reels. So even if you're only paying them a tiny amount or giving them food and transportation, you will find good quality people. I don't think people should go to their neighbors, because I think that
Unless the neighbors are really actors,
right,
it certainly
but,
could be in
but
the
often
Bronx.
that brings down the film, because I do believe that 90% of a narrative film is casting.
Yeah,
So if you've got your neighbor who's awkward, that's where the film is going to go.
How did you deal with that as you were developing films, in terms of the resources to put something of quality together?
Well, I think, especially for documentaries, it's the emphasis is definitely more, again, on story and the realness that you can bring to the film. So absolute technical perfection is not so important. So it's just much more important.
Although good audio is important.
Good audio is very important. So actually, the investment in equipment is not that large right now. It's to find the right story, the right people that can populate that story, that can exemplify that story. That's much more important, and the time that you can put into it.
Then let's use this moment to have you introduce your trailer and the film that you have worked on. And I have to tell you, people will see for themselves, very intricately done. The visuals are, I'm already reviewing it before people saw the trailer. It's just a tribute to you and your skill and your desire to work at a high level that you have that. So why don't you give us a little introduction of it?
Yeah, so the film is set in...
the name of it is?
The film is Gautam and Buddha. The two principal characters are Gautam and Buddha. And they are actors in a traveling theater in rural India. And this kind of theater, it's all men. And so men play women. And a lot of the men who play women are gay. So, and Gautam and Buddha are two gay actors who dress as women for their roles. So, and one of them is out, and the other, he has a wife and a kid back in the village. So the film is about...
shot on location in India?
It's a documentary. It's all the real people. It's like nothing is...
So here we go. The name again?
Gautam and Buddha.
And Buddha. My pronunciation, I apologize.
It's like Gautam Buddha, the founder of Buddhism.
Okay.
And it's
I see.
very
All right.
interesting, yeah.
So here we go by Shayok Mukhopadhyay. Okay. Now let's let it rip.
আমেরিকায় যেন এখন মানে আন্দোলন করে মেয়ে নস্কা আর তার বিয়ের অধিকার করে নিয়েছে।
বিয়ের অধিকারটা ওটা আমেরিকাতে হয়েছে, তা ওটা তো আমাদের এইসব জায়গায় তো ওই আইন ছিল না, তো তারা তো
আমাকে মা বলে ডাক্তারি খোকা, দাঁত একটিবার শুধু একটিবার মা বলে
নামে আছে বয়া কাশি, নামের মাঝে আছে
কত মানুষ দেখে এই ছেলেটা আমাকে ভালোবাসে বলছে, তাই তো। আচ্ছা এই এটা ঢুকে চুরি করলে হয় কিছু, লেবু কিনে কিনে খাওয়ার টেস্ট আলাদা, চুরি করে নেওয়াটা আলাদা। বড় লোকের কথা বলছি।
তুমি তো বেটা ছেলে, তোমাকে আপনি মেয়ে সাজিয়ে না চাই, তোমার বউ কিছু বলবে না?
করে দেখতে হবে।
আরে কত আগে বিপুলে মধুমাখা হারে কৃষ্ণ নাম।
All right, there you go. Congratulations. Thank you very much. In terms of the actors, how did you find the actors for that?
Again, they are actors in the theater. In my film, they are playing themselves. They are not actors, right? It's a non-fiction film. So those people in real life are actors in the theater in which they work.
He just shadowed them throughout their real lives.
And in terms of the costumes, and
Right.
I mean, not people had those things, or did you really, because it's, as I said, it's intricately done. There's
So they're a part of a theater company. It's a theater company. It's a commercial theater company that goes village to village
Right.
and is paid to work. So all the costumes and the lights and whatever, that's a part of a real theater company, a commercial working company. I did not put them in costume. That's what they are. And I
Would
filmed them.
you give us your own critique? You like it? You think you did well? Sometimes artists are just never satisfied with their film.
No, I love the film. It's great where it is. I mean, it's a documentary is always a challenge because you are just dealing with real life, but it's
All right, we're gonna
turned out
show a
great.
couple of others. Let's we'll put on hold because I want to ask you about where it's going, what the future of it is, because that's another whole thing.
Yes.
Is once you've created this beast, so to speak,
Right.
what do you do with it? All right,
Distribution is tricky.
Let's talk about the next one, which is gigs, I guess, with a dollar sign.
Right, that's by Chia Manaya. She created the series, wrote and directed it. It's 6 episodes, and it will be coming out in the fall. It's about a young woman post-college who finds herself unable to get a job in a field related to her degree and does a series of crazy gigs to try to make ends meet.
Do you want to, when you say it's coming out, talk to me about out, and I guess that bridges into what I was saying about the future of this film or other films.
Chia's is a web series, so it's designed to play online. So she has an Instagram account where she announces updates, and when she has a release date, it'll be there, and then it'll be on an online platform to watch for free.
Okay, here we go. Let's take a look at gigs.
Do you know what a job is?
Yes, and I've been trying to get one, but here's the thing. They don't teach you the rejection stuff in college. How much do I owe you?
200.
Okay, yes, so, can I give you 50 now, maybe like the rest later?
That's not how this works. I want you to leave. I don't want to see you when I get back.
Are you serious?
What are you gonna do for money?
We got kicked out. Our operation is shut down.
Gentrification coming to a hood near you.
You think you have it hard? Little girl, you don't know shit about having it hard.
All right, we'll give another round of applause for that film. Different type of film.
Well, his is a documentary, and hers is a
that's what I
scripted-
said.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. And is there a difference? She's not here, but is there a difference in the way you view the making of it if you're doing it, let's say, for segments, for episodes?
You know, there's different approaches to that. Chia particularly approached it more like it was a feature film. So rather than shooting episode 1 and then coming back and shooting episode 2, she wrote them all in advance and shot them as though it was a feature film, and then went to editing.
And how closely do they work with you in terms of the creation of it? Like, are you there to kind of...
No. We are all independent filmmakers. We just come together for
Got it.
community and support.
So let's talk about the future of your film. In other words, how do you see it? It's a full-length film?
Yeah, it's 84 minutes. It's a
And
feature
how do
film.
you see it ultimately playing theaters? Of course, you'd love it to be everywhere.
Yeah, of course. I mean, currently it premiered in Romania, in the Transylvania International Film Festival in June, and then it's going to play in Canada in a festival in October. So basically, we are doing the rounds of festivals right now, and we'll go.
That's
from there.
usually a year
Yeah.
that a filmmaker takes the film around
It
festivals.
goes back to your original point. Is it difficult to get accepted into the kinds of festivals that you think can be worthwhile and valuable and those kinds of things?
Yeah, it's extreme. Like, you know, the festivals get like crazy amounts of entries these days. I mean, it's ridiculous. What, Sundance got 13,000 entries?
13,000.
Yes.
See, I was like, I said, oh, he's got 80 films to review.
Yeah, I mean, even if someone had to watch 2 minutes of 13,000 films, right?
It's very.
It's so it is a bit of, we have this glut problem in the film
We do.
industry, and it's definitely we have to.
I will say that Shayok has a bit of an advantage because he did get several very prestigious grants and participated in some labs with the project, so I think he's going to be able to tap into some connections that way.
Yeah, so yeah, and actually, I'm really grateful for the support I got from like New York State Council on the Arts, and especially like being an immigrant artist, it's particularly gratifying for me to get that kind of support from New York State. I got a NISCA NISCA Artist Fellowship to complete the film, and another NIFA Fellowship.
Do you anticipate having it shown in India, one would think?
I've not shown it in India, and it's a little tricky actually because
of the subject matter?
Because of the subject matter, not because of subject matter per se, but because these are real people's lives we are dealing with.
Oh.
So the film has to kind of approach them in a way that they are comfortable.
Right.
So you don't want it to kind of surprise them.
Fascinating.
Yes.
So it might even have more appeal here, or you're going to let it roll here.
Yes. Yeah.
Fascinating. Talk to me about Highbridge, which I think is very popular. People in the Bronx will relate to it right away because it is Highbridge. We know what we're referring to.
It's a short film by Benedict Campbell. It's based on a feature film that he's in development for. It's about young fatherhood, young single fatherhood in the Bronx. And it is currently online, available for free to screen. So if you go to Ben's website, which I believe you have and are going to put up, you'll be able to access it.
Just looking at the faces and looking at the people, I personally related right away. I related to a young father. And the other thing, which he's not here to talk about it, the girl, which you will see in the clip, is ill. I don't know how you get I don't know how old she was, a 5-year-old girl to look sick. Unless she was actually, but...
No, it's casting. You pick a 5-year-old girl that can follow some basic directions.
I don't know. It's not only directions. I was like, if it was my daughter, I was like, my goodness, I think you don't feel well, honey, which is what we're about to see. All right, so it's Highbridge.
The Highbridge.
The Highbridge. Let it rip.
You okay? Thank God. Come here, let me see. Sure? Like, mommy ever teach you how to use a swing?
No.
Come here. All right, so follow me, all right?
All right, there you go. Another applause. We want to applaud all of our films. And I guess we want to just tell people to come by. Everybody can come by. You can enjoy the films, do a lot of networking. Certainly people interested in media, which will always be my interest, but also in filmmaking. There's going to be a zillion people that tell us all about it.
Yeah, we're celebrating our 7 years the Tuesday after Labor Day at the Bronx Documentary Center. There'll be food and music and other Bronx creatives, not just filmmakers. And everybody's invited. It's a free event.
7 o'clock?
7 o'clock?
7 o'clock, the Bronx Documentary Center.
Right, which is on Cortlandt and 151st.
Right.
Near the hub, if everybody...
And you'll be able to congratulate Shayok on his great work. Thank you, and thank you for joining us this evening. And for Hannah, keep going. We'll be here for 8. Maybe you'll come back at the same time of year for next year.
Excellent.
That
Thank you for having
great.
us.
Folks, if you have further questions or comments on anything you heard on tonight's show or anything going on in the Bronx, then email them to us at bronxtalk@bronxnet.org. You send us a tweet at BronxTalk, or you post them on our Facebook page. We thank our producer, who's Helen Greenberg. Our director is Nick Marrero, and we'll see you next week. Good night.